Alexis Morgan. How are you?
I am good. Matt Todd, how are you today?
I'm doing well. As promised, we have finally made it. We are here to do some legislative there's too much for us to cover, obviously, but you being just finished your comprehensive exam. Congratulations. So you officially have like a master's and you're like almost done with your candidacy for a PhD student for public policy. Here we are. We're going to do some public policy review.
Here we are. And yes, for clarification, I did pass the comprehensive exam. So now I move into the doctoral candidate phase.
Oh.
I'm like so pumped about it. I'm hoping for one more year. That's what I'm hoping for.
That's cool. I'm hoping for an honorary doctorate one day. That's what I'm hoping for.
People who make those decisions.
President Green. Dude, I would be great. I want like a honorary doctorate in
How do you even? I don't know what the factors are that I think people hand those out.
I think it's like a lifetime achievement award. I think the argument is made that like you've engaged in a body of work that's substantial and reflects, a level of expertise and skill that they're like, okay, you get an honorary doctorate. One day. Hashtag one day.
For you and you and you.
And you. Anyway, okay, so what do you have for it? Like there are so many different policies. What do you got?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. So I actually wanted to start with one that is kind of cool because
Thank you for the coffee, by the way.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's the EpiPen one. It's House Bill 531. And the reason I wanted to start with this one was because it, to me, like embodies the practice to policy link where someone was experiencing this. It's a mom who's a nurse at a rural school district, and she wants to give what is it, like a nasal, like epi kind of nasal. I can't think of all the words at the moment. Anyways, okay.
Like a nasal spray that works analogous to an EpiPen.
Yes.
Great. And this is for like anaphylactic shock, peanut allergy, something, whatever.
All the things like that. And so she wants to give one of those, but in code, it specifically says you can only use a needle. And that's because when they first came out, they were only needles. So that's how the code was written. So now she reached out and said, hey, I'm noticing this thing. Is there something I can do? And it's like, yeah, there's absolutely something you can do. So she also happens to serve on the state PTA board. So we got her connected to a lawmaker who wanted to help support this issue. And so it was presented to the House Health and Welfare Committee, went just right on through, passed the House, and is now going to go over on the Senate side.
Heck yeah. And this is a revision to it's not just a needle. Is there an articulation of like, it's a needle and a nasal spray, or is it like anything delivering epinephrine?
Yeah, just, I think the phrasing they're using basically is something about like modern medicine, technology, essentially.
Gotcha.
And what's great too, and I learned, was that like through the Nephi in Schools program, schools can get 4 free to each school, and then the Nephi in Schools program will replace those.
Gotcha.
So who doesn't love like something free? I'm telling you, moms do.
The moms do.
Moms do. Moms love something free.
I like things of value. I don't necessarily like things that are free.
Okay.
Okay. So bottom line is this was a problem-driven issue. Somebody came to you, you got them hooked up with a legislator, went to health and welfare. People are like, okay, advancing technology, advancing needs, let's revise this. And it's sailing through.
Yes. Look at you in that perfect little package. Thanks, Matt. I'm so glad you're here to like just wrap it all up for me every time.
And what bill number was this?
531.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, and that is sponsored by Representative Josh Wheeler.
Go Josh Wheeler.
Yeah.
Soda Springs. He invited me out because I was like, I want to come to Soda Springs. He's like, you can drink from the ground. It'll be great. You can stay at the Under Hotel. The Under Hotel, which is apparently like a very famous old school hotel.
Oh,
so
that's very cool.
Yeah, I'd love to make a trip out there.
Yeah. I mean, he's got another bill later that we're going to talk about that like is questionable. So
I love questionable.
Questionable.
I got one for you.
Oh, okay.
Okay. In the 500s, House Bill 554. Don't know who's Wait, no, I may have found out who's, no, it's not sponsored by any particular person. It was like a state affairs in general, like a committee brought forward this issue. At least that's my understanding. So 554, a very interesting problem. Okay. You have right now, you own property, I own property. We have rights around that property. Fantastic. It's my little fiefdom.
Yes.
Here's the thing though. There are public health issues that can stem from my individual property. I happen to, in my lifetime, have experienced this as a younger person because when I was a younger man, my parents got divorced. I was very young. I was in elementary school and we had a pool in our backyard. And my family life, the property, and everything I knew fell into disrepair because that's what happens when you're like 7 and your parents get divorced and it's really bad. Mm-hmm. The pool was no exception. So the pool totally fell into disrepair. So the water level dropped like 3-4 feet. It was nasty. And you couldn't see, like if you put your hand in the water, you couldn't even see your hand. Whoa. It was filled with mosquito larvae. So I remember as a young person, the county like pest abatement person coming through and being like we're gonna have to like treat this with something. Now again, being a 7-year-old, this was the least of my concerns. But it was an experience where I'm like, okay, as an adult, you're like, okay, standing water's bad. I also have a family member who lost a child because of the Zika virus that came from I believe that gets transferred in mosquitoes and cat fecal matter, right? So there's this problem. And again, the baby was born without a brain. So these are two experiences I've had around pests and viruses that are transmitted through pests. So 554, back to this thing, says, hey, you, the private property owner, in current law, if there's like an emergency and they have to like the pest abatement or district or something has to come through and treat the property, I believe they have the right to do that and you can't stop them. But what 554 would do would give the property owner the right to opt out of mosquito abatement, pest control district in general. And they're like, no, if you don't want this and you have, say you have like an acre and a half or you have a pool in your backyard that's in disrepair or whatever, and you're like, I don't care. I don't want you spraying anything on my property. I don't want you coming onto my property. Get out of here. You don't have the right to do this. 554 would say, okay, you can't do that, pest district. Like this person's property right and their desire to have you or not have you on their property supersedes any of your ability, which brings into a large question about, okay, do you have ultimate power over your property? That's one, right? Control of your property. Are things on your property that create a discernible risk to the community, are these things relevant and do they supersede your private property rights? Like, can you do something that puts me, your neighbor, at a definable risk? Like, these are questions that are getting kicked around because I don't like the idea that I can't control, somebody spraying something on my property, but I also don't like the idea of West Nile virus going through the community. So like, where's the balance there? That's 554.
Yeah, that one kind of reminds me of this trend that I feel like is happening where we're looking at the government and people are looking at the government and they're seeing the different services that are provided and almost like we could say like the rights that the government has, to be able to take care of the different communities, cities, counties.
The obligations they have, because I don't think the government has rights.
You're
I
right.
think
You're
people
right.
have rights.
Yep. So that's a better word. So the obligations that the government has. So what then is the kind of? It seems like the play here is the what is an individual's right in this scenario, and so I feel like we've seen a lot more movement towards removing government obligations or their ability to collect data and wanting to give more rights back to individuals. It seems like there's been a move towards that over the last like X number of years. And I wouldn't say that it's something new, but it seems like, to your point, it's really important to ask ourselves, like, one, what problem are we trying to solve here? Like, do you feel like you don't have enough rights over your property? Are you trying to make it so that there's something like what are you hiding on your property that would make it so that it wouldn't be okay for someone to come on and take care of this issue? I mean, I know that for me personally, I have a pond in my backyard and I like that I can call, I don't know if it's like the city, county or something, and just say like, hey, like, please come take care of this. And they come and take care of the mosquitoes. And it makes it really pleasant for me to be able to be outside. And gosh, my neighbor next door, they had like this big, huge wasp nest. Like it was massive off the side of their house. And I thought, like, that feels really unsafe to me. And someone mentioned it to the neighbor and the neighbor was like, no, actually, I really like this because it takes care of X, Y, and Z. And
I was like, didn't you see my girl? Macaulay Culkin died.
I know. I was like, and so I contacted the HOA and I just was like, hey, just wanted to make you aware that this is like in the community. And so the HOA called and anyways, I don't know what transpired between them, but eventually the wasp nest was taken down, which I was glad about because my kids don't, I mean, bees kind of freak them out. So,
Right. I was going
and
to
they're
say,
like scary. I mean, the wasps, I mean, they're scary and it hurts when you get stung. And
oh,
so,
and the wasps can sting you repeatedly. They don't lose the stinger. It's definitely one way to get rid of doorbell ditchers, though. That should be the play. Like artificially created wasp nests on your front door. I go in through my garage anyway. So like just poor Amazon package people. They're like, I'm just trying to deliver a package.
Oh my gosh.
All right. What's your next one you got?
Okay. But I was just saying, like,
sorry.
for your 554, you know,
Yeah.
House Bill, or if that's the number, the thing that I ask, the thing that's important to ask is like, what question, like, what problem are you trying to solve?
Well, I can tell you right now,
Okay.
I grew a lawn last year in my backyard, and I grew a lawn from like dead earth, right? So I had to turn everything over. I put in carbon, and I did a bunch of things and was trying to grow this lawn because I don't have the like $15,000 to buy sod. I don't have the $5,000 to do like hydro seeding. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to figure this one out myself. Like Matt is competent. I can grow a lawn. And part of growing the lawn was like, oh my God, I just grew 10,000 goat heads, right? And they were terrible. Like I would do black, like the big like construction garbage bags. Like I do a black bag or two per week of me just taking, oh my God. And I had the special gloves on, and at one point I went and got a dump truck. Like I got a gallon of concentrate of 2,4-D. The stuff that would kill the goat heads.
You could use any word and I would believe
the
you.
9 or 10 spray. Right.
Anyway,
and I was going to spray him, and my wife was really like, I would really like to not do that if possible. And, you know, the answer was like, no, it's not possible. And it's like, you know, man, are you sure? And so what I ended up doing is I drowned the goat heads. I actually grew the grass so high and aggressively, they outcompeted the goat heads because goat heads need arid earth and they need direct sunlight. Well, I grew the grass to like 6 inches, and it was literally like a ground plant trying to compete in the rainforest. It's like, I can't see the sun. And like I outcompeted them. Point is, people worry about chemicals on their property. My wife was worried about a commercially accessible, you know, pest or herbicide that would kill the goat heads, and to know that like some random county guy would come onto the property and spray whatever it is in my aqua feature, be that standing water, pond, whatever, and, you know, cause these problems. I could see people, not my wife because I don't have an aqua feature, but I could see the community being like, hey man, I don't like that. I don't like that if I don't want that. I can also see, hey man, I don't like West Nile virus. Like I see, you know, again, it's a very interesting question. And again, to your point, I think people are moving much more towards, I don't care what the community obligation is. I don't believe in community obligation. I believe in personal rights. And that's where it starts and stops.
Yeah. Well, and is this a state issue or is it like a local issue? Like,
right.
Should you be going to just your county instead?
Right. Should we have a vote around the district? Should we, because all these districts have independent boards, should we vote out the people on the boards? Like if you feel strongly one way or another, why not run people for the mosquito abatement board or the mosquito abatement district, whatever it is, that are like, hey, we're going to get permission slips to go on all these private properties, and we're not going to do this without that permission slip. You could do that on a local level instead of going to the state level.
Yeah, 1,000%. Yep. So thanks for that one, Matt.
Hey, you're welcome.
Really appreciate you on that one. The next one I'm going to bring to you is it's Senate Bill 1227. So this is AI in education. This is the one that's brought to you by Senator Kevin Cook. And this was put together by a work group. I was on the work group. And basically this, one of the reasons I think this has done so well in the Capitol is because of the way that the issue has been defined, which is AI is here. We use it every day. Do you use your GPS on your phone? Are you, scrolling through Netflix in some fashion? AI has been integrated into everything we do. And so our public school space, the people who work there are waiting for direction in many scenarios, like for teachers and teacher prep, or and what is okay for a kid to interact with, or all of these different types of things. So this legislation says, okay, State Board of Education, Department of Education, you need to create a framework that that school districts can have access to and guidance for, so that they can create their own frameworks in their local public schools. And what's really great about this framework too is this legislation is that we looked at a lot of other states in the nation. So sometimes being the first person to the party isn't the best, because if you're a few steps back, you can kind of see what's worked, what's not. And so in this case, we were able to look at what other states had been doing. And so for us to say, okay, we've seen everything around the nation. We know what the values are in Idaho, which is local control, or at least that's what we've had for decades.
Sure.
And so what can we do for our state that's going to be best for our kids, and also acknowledging that the most important thing is to keep our kids safe, to keep their data privacy, intact, and then also to make human-centered decisions first, middle, and last, always, and using AI as a tool. So that one's been really interesting, but I think the coalition building and the issue definition, the defining piece of that issue has been really key in the success of this bill.
And that one stems from we have a problem. Who's interested in addressing this? What have the other states done? Let's collect localized people to come up with for Idaho with an Idaho solution. And then let's bring that forward.
Yes. And that requires time and effort to do that. Quality legislation really, when it comes to getting input from different, I can't think of the word at the moment. Stakeholders. Thank you. I know I taught you that word X number.
You did?
Yeah. I just want to make sure I got credit for the word. Bringing those stakeholders together and, convening those meetings, that takes time. And so Senator Kevin Cook, he's been working on this for a long time, but those group meetings started last year, early summer, and bringing in business leaders, school leaders, agency leaders, parents, and then even tech leaders, and having all of those voices together and conversations and, the hashing out is what generated the bill. And then Senator Cook and other people have gone out. I've shared it with parents, I've gotten their feedback on it. And so then, making the different tweaks that were needed in the legislation. So this bill, Senator Cook's presented it to the the Senate Education Committee. It passed, and then it went to the Senate floor and it passed. And so it's been about a week ago, it was directed to the House side. So still waiting on House Chair, Hawkins, I think is his name. There's so many people at that Capitol.
It's like magical chairs or musical chairs.
It was this last year, yeah.
Moving around. It's can I get a little continuity?
I know.
When I first started in 24, the head of the Education Committee, House Education Committee, was Representative Julie Yamamoto. Then it went to Representative Doug Pickett in 25. Now it's Hawkins, you said? I think,
yeah. I'm second guessing myself.
We just keep everything in line, man. This one's this intense. So there's that. Here's one for you. I don't know what bill number this is, but Representative Hill is his original bill with the government buildings and flying flags.
We're going to this one. This one's on the list.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
But one thing, and again, we can talk about this one. One thing that I find interesting about this that, again, I'm not in politics. I wouldn't even say I'm new to politics. I'm new observing politics. One thing that I find interesting about this piece of legislation is it is scope creep, where essentially you get a bill across the line. If you're hey, look, I want these 5 things in a bill. What I'm seeing and realizing, obviously, and I should have known this as a person just in general, they're look, you're not going to ask for all 5 things. You just want this little thing first. Let's start with this little thing. This is not very offensive. It's very simple. Let's just go with this thing. And what you do is you get that first one across. And I'm not saying this is what Representative Hill did intentionally or is even doing at all, but you get an initial bill that in this particular case with the flag bill, there was no recourse. And for the initial bill is, hey, look, the only flags that can be flown on an Idaho government building are U.S. flag or Idaho flag. The city of Boise then turns around and says, hey, look, we declared this as a city flag, and therefore we're going to fly this. And there was a big vote. I had one of the city councilwomen,
Willits.
There it is, on City Councilwoman Willits on to talk about, she voted against it. She's like, this is silly. They're going to turn around and they're going to pass some other thing with teeth in it, meaning that there was no recourse if they didn't follow suit. Or she's like, we're just going to end up fighting and wasting more time. She did not approve of the making it a city flag, but they did anyway. They made it a city flag. it's flown. The initial law had no recourse. So people were making these ridiculous Instagram videos or TikTok videos going at police officers like, officer, I know somebody breaking the law right now. And the officers are like, sitting there, like holding their vests. They're like, okay, man, like, what do you got? They're like, it's right over there. They're like, okay, sir, like, what do you have? They're like, the city of Boise is flying a flag. That's illegal. Go arrest them. And they're like, okay, thank you for letting us. Like, why aren't you enforcing the law? And it's like, because there's no enforcement mechanism. It wasn't enforceable by jail time. It wasn't enforceable by a fine. Who are you even doing? Are you doing it to the janitor who raised the flag? Like, who are you fining? Who are you charging? Like, what's the crime specifically? The initial law had no recourse like that, right? Now they're modifying it. So there will be recourse. There will be a fine, a certain amount of monetary fine that you have to pay, like per day that you're flying a flag that doesn't qualify, whatever it might be. It's a really interesting thing where it's an evolving bill, and each step along the way, it's like you can't go for all of it at once. You go for these little things and then you just go. Because I remember last year people were saying, well, listen, it's okay. And by the way, I'm not for or against this. I just remember people justifying it, saying nothing will even happen. Like, okay, so they fly the flag, nothing will even happen. That was both a support and a criticism of the bill.
Wow.
And it was like people being like, don't worry about voting yes. There's not even recourse. Nothing will happen. And now it's like, and here's the recourse.
Yeah, so this bill is interesting to me because...
What bill is this number? You have
this
it on your
is
list?
561.
There you
believe.
go.
Yeah.
I'm taking credit for this one. House Bill 561.
House Bill 561. This one's interesting because from my perspective, I see this as like an ideological difference. There's two kind of like ideological views here where Representative Hill is saying the most important thing is that we are patriotic and it's the United States flag that unifies us. No other flag unifies us. No other flag that is flown in the United States actually captures everybody.
Everyone like this.
This is the only flag that captures everyone. And then the same would be true for the Idaho state flag. So that's what Representative Hill is saying. That's, I had him on my podcast and we talked about House Bill 41 with the Flags in Schools bill. We dissected it through policy language. And it was interesting to kind of pull out his why as he's the policy entrepreneur. That's what we would say. He's the one making sure that it's going to cross that finish line. He's got probably for him, the greatest amount of buy-in. So that's his ideology there. Where we see the opposite or just a different ideology rather is the city council of Boise and the Mayor McLean, where they're saying, listen, just because we are acknowledging some groups doesn't take away the acknowledgement of other groups. I mean, and that's what she said in public testimony.
I don't entirely understand that, by the way.
Okay, what do you mean?
I have 3 boys. Okay. If they came home from school and I had a poster up in front of my garage and I'm like, yay for Brian, he finished school. And it's like, yeah, your other 2 kids, what about like Jimmy and Sam? It's like, I'm not acknowledging that. I'm just acknowledging Brian. Like, that doesn't mean I'm excluding Jimmy and Sam.
Right. I think that's what she's saying. And I think at least that's what I'm hearing her say. Sure. And that's, what I'm hearing, the city council vote say, where they're just like, listen, just because I'm flying this flag, I'm acknowledging a group, but it isn't an unacknowledgement of other groups. I like the term unacknowledgement. That's what they're saying. So, but in essence, though,
these are wild times, Alexis Morgan. This is amazing.
It's amazing. So, but in essence, they're sitting in 2 different ideological spaces. Here is the implication of this, though, that is outside the ideological space, is that this is a bill. And I believe I've heard Representative Hill mention this. This bill, 561, is in response to Boise passing their pride flag and making it an official city flag. For the record, I think if Boise had not done that, we would not have this bill right now. That is like my assessment of the whole lay of the land here.
The ideological like crisscrossing of wires, state control, local, like if the city of Boise wants this, why shan't the city of Boise have, and by the way, neither you nor I are city of Boise residents. We didn't have a vote. Nobody's asked our opinion. I'm not giving my opinion for, against, whatever, but like, I'm blown away by this.
But then here's what happens. And I just had a phone call. I just had a Zoom call last night with the Idaho Kids Impact Council that I started with parents around the state. Right now, they're all moms. Doesn't mean dads can't join too. Just because I'm not acknowledging dads doesn't mean they're
unacknowledged.
They're unacknowledged. Okay, just so we're clear. And what I hear is around the entire state, we are so sick and tired of bills that are for the state of Ada and that have nothing to do with anyone else. I mean, I specifically asked because I was like, I hear this. You guys are kind of off in these other spots. What is the thought? And that is the thought. That this is a state of Ada bill, and it doesn't have anything to do with any other part of the state. Now, here is a trickle-down implication of this that I actually think does impact fun rural communities. Some rural communities, and I know Horseshoe Bend is one of them, where their graduating seniors are put on flags and they are posted on like electric poles or posts. What do we call those in city towns?
Flag poles?
They're not flag poles though. They're not flag, but like light lamps.
Oh,
lamps.
okay.
Lamp poles. That's what they are. You know what I'm talking about?
Light posts?
Yeah. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I'm struggling with words today.
Street lights?
Street lights. That's what it is.
Oh my God. What are you drinking? What is that? Is that like a nothing burger tea? You need some of this black coffee into your,
I will tell you, when I was doing my comprehensive exam, every day I was drinking like an energy drink, and now I've been like taking myself off of it. And anyways.
You're allowed to drink energy drinks?
Oh my gosh.
Come on.
I'm an adult. I can make those choices.
I can make What's your favorite energy drink? Were you drinking like the Celsius?
I like the yerba mate. It's good.
The energy drinks scare me, man.
It's like a tea. It's a yerba mate, but it's like a tea. Herbal mate.
Okay. Oh. I had Representative Anna Luna from Florida on the show when I was in DC.
Your cousin, right?
Yeah. It's a funny part. And she was like, dude, Matthew, she calls me Matthew. She's like, Matthew, you got to try like these Celsius. Because she's pretty young. She's younger than I am. And she's like, speaks faster than I do, which is hilarious. Because it's like, I've realized it's literally like me, her mom, and her speak this speed, and no one else in our family speaks this fast. Anyway, so her whole team is kind of like younger people too, and they're all cracked out on these Celsius. There's like 300 milligrams of caffeine. They suck them down, and they're moving. They're all hustling. They're like, brrr. She's got, like her little kid too, because she's got like a little. Anyway, it's hilarious. So like, I'm horrified of like they gave me one. I was like, I can't. I poured it out in the bathroom. I was like, I can't drink this.
Except like, how many coffees do you have a day?
2.
Sometimes I know you've had more than that.
So what I've started doing especially over the legislative session, so I don't get too cracked out because I get too crazy. I drink my morning coffee at like 5:30 when I get up to edit, or 5 whenever. And then I will get one coffee and I will just sip on it the rest of the day. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So
back to this bill and back to the reality that at the street lights in Horseshoe Bend, that's a government owned thing. They fly the seniors graduating. Fly no mo.
Fly no mo. This bill would take that away. So that's kind of, I think, an unfortunate consequence, because to me, that is kind of
hometown Idaho.
Hometown Idaho right there. It's such a perfect way to say it. So that's the impact of this bill.
I appreciate that sentiment. That is sad. We have far-reaching implications of the war going on between the legislature and Boise that impact other states. Here's one from last year. Okay. The ACHD bill. Between 8th Street and 15th Street, they're going from 4 lanes to 3 lanes. Okay. So instead of 2 east and 2 west, they're doing 1 east, 1 west, and a dedicated turn lane in the middle. And then bimodal lanes on the side for biking, running, hiking, flying. I don't care, whatever you're going to do. And first off, I was like, that's crazy, dude. You're going from 4 lanes to 3. And they're like, yeah, but listen, it's actually really dangerous for pedestrians. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense to me. They're like, this is what happens. If you have 2 lanes going, let's say west, okay, you have pedestrians trying to cross the street. You have the rightmost lane that will immediately stop because they'll see the pedestrian coming off the sidewalk. Anybody behind them will likely not see the pedestrian. Think of giant white trucks or whatever driving. So the car behind the one that initially stopped zips around into the other lane to go by. And the pedestrian then is like eking out and for their, like, and they get hit by cars. Immediately I was like, oh my God, that happened to my mother-in-law. She's not dead. She's the car that stopped. And the pedestrian was crossing in front of her. And then she had to see the car zip around, hit and kill the pedestrian that was crossing right in front of her. And I was like, oh, I know what you're saying. They're like, right, that's actually really dangerous. And what we're going to do, instead of having that left lane constantly stop, so that essentially when you have the person to the right stopping and the person to the left stopping, you constantly have the shift of traffic going left, right, like switching lanes. If you have one lane and one lane in each direction and then a center turn lane, the people turning need not ever stop the other cars going, right? So it's safer for pedestrians. It's better for turn. Anyway, the point is people don't like that because they've installed bimodal lanes that allow people to transport themselves via bike or whatever other mechanisms they want, rollerblades, skateboards, whatever it is. And so there was a law passed that essentially said no highway district or city can engage in street modification if it is not expressly to benefit cars. Well, that immediately caused problems in rural Idaho where they're like, okay, but we have sidewalks, which, by the way, like the highway district may be in charge of these. And they're like, we have sidewalks in front of schools that need to be upgraded. And we can't now spend money to upgrade these because it's not expressly benefiting a vehicle. Like, this is an argument that you guys are having between the legislature and ACHD. And it's going out into rural Idaho, affecting rural Idaho. It's affecting the seniors that would be flown on flags. Like, there's got to be a way that you guys can have your spat, and I'm not taking sides.
Right.
But there's got to be a way that you guys can iron this out without these far-reaching implications for Chalice or Salmon or, Riggins or wherever. Like, have your argument elsewhere.
Totally. And really what you're talking about is the ideological shift that's occurring, I think, within the Republican Party, meaning that for the longest time, and I think it's one of the reasons that there was a mass movement here, like during COVID and after COVID, was that there's so much local control. They didn't, especially I think the people who were coming in from out of state, but also people who had lived here. I mean, my husband's family has lived here since like the 1900.
They helped the canals, right?
They helped dig the canals in the Magic Valley. Yeah, they helped settle that area. These are individuals who embodied local control. That was the essence of policy making. And now within the Republican Party, there has been a shift. And there is a far right contingency that is not about local control anymore. They are about state control and making sure that all the local communities look exactly like what they want. And so the more moderate Republicans are saying, no, don't you remember that we were about local control and that we like policies that are able to be adaptable to the local communities? And we don't want to come out here with our finger telling everyone what they need to do. And what's interesting, though, in this shift, and I feel like people kind of whisper about the shift, and I've heard some people talk about the shift, but not a shift in a way where people, I think one of the reasons it's not so broadly spoken about is because there's some fear inside the Republican Party, meaning that if you don't side with the group that maybe has the strongest hold in terms of like financial backing or what they want, and that is kind of that far right group, you're going to get in trouble. Now, here's where I think an unfortunate piece to that is that when we look at the Constitution, and I think there's a really great book out. It's called American Covenant. It's by a guy with the last name Levin. My friend who's a Republican lawmaker down in Utah told me about it. And it's all about the Constitution and understanding the different parts of the Constitution and how the Constitution can actually provide unity to us if people understand it. Unity, not that we're all on the same page, but unity in that conflict is normal. It's important for us to have an opinion. And conflict and having a dissenting opinion is normal, and that's part of unity. But that dissenting opinion and that conflict is getting weaponized in a way that's making people feel like, well, if I don't agree with the entire group, I better just be quiet, because that entire far group over there, they are the ones who want to, or that is the group that's going to have the most power. And so the unfortunate part about that, like even nationwide, what we're seeing is that I think in these younger generations, Gen Z, millennial, and even some Gen Xers, 40% of Americans do not feel they're unaffiliated with a party, because both of these parties, the Democrats, but we don't see it in Idaho because the Democrat Party is so small. So we really mostly just talk about the Republican Party.
Yeah.
But I would suggest that Dems are probably doing this in other states as well. It's not an Idaho Republican Party isolated incident. But the thing that's unfortunate in Idaho is that this ideological shift and this inability to tolerate conflict we're losing that local control aspect. And so we have lawmakers coming out and saying, we need to create bills based on the great state of Ada. And all of the rural communities their voices are not being raised up in a way, even by some of their own lawmakers, because of this party dynamic. And so we see that play out in a lot of legislation at the Capitol.
Yeah, I can tell you I've off air. I obviously speak on air to a lot of representatives and senators, but I can tell you off air, even people that are very, very, very conservative and coming from very, very conservative areas of the state, they're all saying the quiet thing, which is like, this is not working. Like, and again, they're all politicians, so they're all far more adept at navigating these waters than I would ever be. But yeah, like there's largely a consensus. I've met very few people that don't think there's anything going on. Here's a policy question for you. Okay. And again, it's not even related to this, but it is related to Idaho politics.
Okay.
How shall I select, and how do I even determine if I will engage in governor candidate interviews?
Oh, like you, Matt Todd, how are you going to choose the governor candidate?
If I even engage in offering interviews to people, because this is, at this point we have, Governor Little's signaled that he's going to run. We have
Terry
Pickerings.
I think it's Terry Pickens.
Terry Pickens.
Maybe.
Democrat, right? She's running. There's a person named Maxine Durant running.
Yep.
There is now a former
Supreme Court
Justice who's running. And there is also a bar owner from Eagle running. Okay. 5 people at this point. And it's like, that's a lot of people. Now, again, like I'll do 5 episodes before noon. That doesn't really affect me. The question is, do I interview all of them? I spoke to people from KTVB after the local elections because there was criticism from some people in Nampa saying, hey, there were 4 people running for mayor. You held a debate for the mayor race. You only interviewed 2 of them, or only 2 were invited. And they, hearing from KTVB, they're like, listen, man, we have barriers to entry that we engage in. And generally it's, I think it's like a donation or monetary thing. They're like, if you haven't raised like $500, then we're not gonna, like you have filed, that's fine. But all that took was 10 signatures. Like we have a barrier, a floor over which you have to something, right? So is that it? Because I didn't do that. I just interviewed everyone. And I'm not telling you it was the best time ever, but just as a policy, like, what do you think? And I'm not going to hold you to this, but like, what do you think? Should there be a policy? Should it be like just what I feel like? Should it be like anybody, all comers? Should it be a fundraising barrier? Like what should it be?
Yeah. So it's a fair question. And something, like for you, what I hear you saying is that you're trying to create some type of a threshold because not everyone is going to have even that same level of buy-in
Yes.
that like Governor Little's going to have, right? Where he's serving in office. We know he's a serious candidate. So it's like, how do you get to the point where you are just taking the time to interview serious candidates? Because, like, let's be really clear, you don't have to. And this is, you're not, like, it's not a requirement, and
No.
you don't have to interview any of them if you don't want to. Right?
That's kind of what I'm flirting with, which is like, do I even engage in this? Because you do have people, if everyone's like, everyone's a serious candidate, that's not true. If you looked at the people running all throughout the Treasure Valley, you would know not everyone's a serious candidate. And I know this because I sat down for hours and hours and hours and talked to a bunch of them. And some people were just there for the lulz. Like,
well, you know, I mean, so one thing that I learned recently was that, like, the Supreme Court justice is the independent candidate, and he's not officially filed yet. I think.
sure.
But he has to get 1,000 signatures in order to, because he's going to be an independent.
Right.
So, you know, that's a pretty good threshold. I mean, right there, go out and get, that's not like,
that's not inconsequential.
No, exactly.
If he was running as a Republican or a Democrat, would he not be required to get 1,000 signatures?
I don't know. Someone who's listening is going to know. They're going to be like, Alexis and Matt, and you're
idiots. I know.
Yeah,
I'm aware.
Yeah.
Stop listening right now.
Do yourself a favor.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But one thing that I think you could do, though, is have people fill something out to determine, you know, you can use your own brain to determine what level of, you know, barrier,
threshold, whatever it is,
you know, that you want to have in there. And I think also too, one of the things is that there is, just because someone's running doesn't mean anyone's going to be paying attention to them or give them any votes in the state.
Sure.
So it's like, do you want to interview someone like that, or someone that's so opposite what the entire state, you know, represents in some way? So I don't know, like, at this point,
it's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, I don't know the answer either. And it's also something that I'm trying to figure out for next year with local elections. Like and even the primary. The May primary is coming up, and people have reached out from across the state wanting to come on the show. It's like, okay, especially with primaries. And there are a couple areas in the state where I'm like, oh, I'm definitely going to go do those interviews, and I will offer it to everybody running. Okay. So if you have, you know, if you're in a district, I will get a hold of the county clerk and be like, who is running in this district, who is officially filed, and I will offer interviews to all of those people. That is what I did for the local elections. And I offered interviews to all people, with the exception of one person. I followed through and like hit every interview with anybody who wanted to come in. And the one person was an exception, and I'm not going to go into details of why, but I just did not want that person in my studio. The point is that we'll do that for some, but these are questions that are like ever evolving. We're like, okay, how do you even engage this? Like, cause I can't do, for instance, all the city council and like school board and everything that I did in Treasure Valley. People wanted me to do it elsewhere. They wanted me to go to like Idaho Falls or go to like, you know, wherever it is. It's like Idaho Falls needs to develop their own person doing this.
Well,
I can't be that for everyone.
And I mean, I feel like I should put this out there because I think some people don't know. Matt Todd is, I mean, you are a one person, like, you are the one scheduling, you're the one doing the editing, you're the one doing this, as like, I mean, I am the executive vice president of, like, you know, the Ranch Podcast. We love to say that. But I'm not your assistant. And I think some people have thought that I'm your assistant. And it's like,
sure.
no,
Yeah,
it's like, no, Matt Todd.
Like, I call you with questions like this, which is, hey, Alexis, what do you think I should do with this? And you know, kick things back and forth. You teach me what stakeholder means. Like, it's fine. But like it is just me. So doing 20 interviews in Idaho Falls would mean Matt collecting cameras and gear, getting into his car, driving to Idaho Falls, finding a place to sleep, finding a place to eat, finding a place to record, scheduling all of the people, being away from my family, doing all of these things. It's like, dude.
Well, listen to me.
Listen to me. God, you said it.
Listen to me. No one likes to feel taken advantage of either.
Sure.
And so I do think that that's part of it, is this like expectation of, you need to do this thing.
Right.
And I think it's important for people to understand and hear, no, it's not an expectation. It's an opportunity that people can have if you decide that you want to invite them on your show. Full stop.
I think that's fair. I think, and like, bottom line is, I will tell you what I do. I bought a camera. and I bought a microphone and I treated people with dignity and respect. And lo and behold, 3.5 years later, here we are. I didn't know anything about Idaho. I didn't know anyone in Idaho. So don't tell me it's about my connections or my history or my background. I am and was a no one. And all it took was a camera and a microphone and a little bit of dignity. And there you go, man.
Oh,
so like,
and curiosity. You
right.
never came in and told people what to do. You came in and asked, what do you do? What is it like here? You know, why are you doing that thing? Why is that important to you? How is this going to impact our community? Why does it matter?
Right.
You know, you
like,
ask the questions.
So these are really like the format is very, very basic. And I, again, will do as much as I can. But at the same time, it's like, you know what somebody told me the other day? I actually got in an argument with a representative. This is like an elected official. And this individual was giving me a hard time. Like, you really need to have this person who's another private citizen, not a representative, on the show. I'm like, no, I'm not interested in talking to that person. And that person's not centered to like any particular issue that I'm doing. And the representative kept on, he was like, dude, you're all about being unbiased. Like, I'm like, okay, that's true. Here's something funny. If you talk trash to me online, you're never getting on this show. people think they're like, I know how to get Matt's attention and like gain entrance into a studio. I'll go onto all his Facebook posts and talk trash. You will never see the inside of this room ever if you do that. And I mentioned that to the rep, and the rep was like, people yell at me all day, every day. Like, people scream at me all the time about things. I'm like, you are a public official.
Elected.
You are paid by the state to represent the people. Ain't no state paying me. I am a private citizen with an Instagram account. Everyone here has an Instagram account. That doesn't mean anybody gets access into your living room. Like, right. These are two completely different things. And people forget that. They think like, well, you have a podcast. That's meaningless. It literally means I record conversations. Yeah. Anyway, so funny things. I'll follow up on this. If anybody has any ideas, I'm totally game for it. Because again, how do you engage in these conversations? Do you engage in them? Is there a threshold that I should have? Or is it literally whoever files gets entrance into this? Like, and it's like, okay, these are questions that need to be teased out, you know, because by the way, it's coming.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, hit me.
Yeah. So here's another one. And this one actually is similar to Representative Hill's bill in that it's taking.
Do we have a bill number?
Yes, we do.
What is it?
557.
We're all in the fives today. 554.
Well, except Senate Bill 1227.
Right. And 561. Anyway, keep going.
Okay. So this one is brought to you by Representative Bruce Skog. And this is the Uniformity in Local Anti-Discrimination Ordinances Act, which basically aims to prohibit local governments from creating any prohibits them from enforcing any anti-discrimination laws that go beyond what the state
has in place.
Designates. Yep. And so, just as an FYI, there are these anti-discrimination laws that local communities passed that were beyond what the state designated in terms of protected classes in specific spaces. This occurred between 2012 and 2020. Meaning that between 2012 and 2020, local communities said, we see up on the state that there isn't a designation for this. And so we are going to take care of this in our local communities, specifically Ada County, Latah County, and then cities, Boise, of course, but then Ketchum, Moscow, Coeur d'Alene, Pocatello, Lewiston, Victor, Driggs, Haley, Bellevue, Meridian, Idaho Falls.
And these are all cities or counties that enacted an additional layer of legislation, or excuse me, or ordinances within their areas that said, hey, we're going to add to what the state has. So state has here, and we're just going to add this one and this one. And these are what all of these places. So it's not just the great state of Ada, as people were back. Sorry about that memory card problem. But again, this isn't just as people would think, an Ada County argument where it's like a spat with the state and Ada County. It's like people across the state of Idaho, both rural, both urban, both large and small, north, south, all over the place, enacted some layer of localized ordinance that they felt was appropriate. And that's in this bill that you're discussing. What is it, 557?
557, yes.
557. That one would say, hey, no, you can't do that.
Yes. And ultimately, like, I would ask Representative Skog, what problem are you trying to solve? What is the thing that you're trying to fix with this legislation? Because again, like I mentioned earlier, this is an ideological shift from local control to state control. And that's within the Republican Party. And so we're seeing this play out. I mean, you can go through and look at the list. There's a lot within this list that we're like, it's not just kind of like, let's go back to the AI framework, right? Where we're saying we are going to designate that this department, this Department of Ed is going to create something to help local communities, because those local school districts don't have that yet. A lot of them don't. Right. What this is doing is taking away authority from local communities, and the state is taking the control over this. That is a major shift. That's a major ideological shift within people who are in leadership in the state of Idaho. Major. Again,
I don't, and again, people can vote for this however they want. None of my affair. I'm not even as concerned with the bill as I am about, like, it was my understanding that one of the features of conservatism, or one principle, is limited government, and the government closest to the people is the best. And there's, somebody did tell me that one of the arguments for this bill is that local or smaller municipalities may not have the capacity to pass this, like, because say Nampa could be like, hey, we are going to pass an ordinance that Nampa's discrimination laws will reflect perfectly state laws, and we will not pass anything else. They could do that, right? So the local control could do this themselves. But the argument was that there's not the capacity to defend that or something at the state level. At the local level. So they have to pass something in the state. It's like, I don't really understand that. But, again, I would like to understand this better, because it seems to fly in the face of, like, the government's primary role, per Senator Jim Risch, is to do things, only engage in that which the people cannot do for themselves. Mm-hmm. And that seems that it would apply from state to local, right? And if the local can do it, why would the state be jumping in? And again, I don't know, there's probably a reason.
Mm-hmm. Mm. But I think to your point, there's just examples of this ideological shift. And, why is it happening? Well, I think some of it's happening out of fear, in terms of, a lot of these people, there are several lawmakers that have not been in Idaho that long. And they are, they did come up from California, or they spent a lot of time in California. And so they haven't been in Idaho for very long. And now they've become lawmakers. And getting elected, you've got, like, out of state money that's been helping people, all sorts of stuff.
To be clear, this is not Representative Skog. I think he was born and raised in Nampa.
No. This has nothing to do with this particular, with him.
Yeah.
But just in general, like, when we're talking
the ideological shift.
Yes,
in the party.
This shift. Yeah. Mm-hmm, and how there is, when people come from anywhere, they bring their baggage from where they've been. That's not a dig. That's reality. And so a lot of these people are bringing their lived fear of experience of, I felt so controlled by the state in such a negative way. How can I make it so that doesn't happen again? And so part of that is, how can I make state laws that give me my personal rights and my authority?
Bringing up Bruce Skog. Okay. He also has another bill that it's like the social transition bill. Are you aware of this one? Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't want to botch this, but essentially we have a prohibition in the state of Idaho from pediatricians engaging in some kind of, like, physical transition, medical transition with children, right?
Yeah.
Totally fine. None of my affair. I didn't make that bill. I have nothing to do with it. No, there's also a concern that I believe Representative Skog is addressing, which is like, okay, but what if my kid Brian goes to school and is like, don't call me Brian, call me Susie. And the teachers are like, okay, Susie, right? And parents then have this anxiety that their child will be socially, not physically, but socially transitioned. And adults in that sphere engaging with those children will not say anything to the parents. And this is, of course, an anxiety around mental health of children that like the parents, if you go ahead with Brian, calling Brian Susie, are you participating or encouraging, this transition or whatever it might be? So there is a bill, I can't remember exactly. I've talked to a couple people about it. There's a bill that's like, hey, if you're found guilty of doing this, now this could be a sports coach, it could be a religious figure, it could be anybody. If you're found guilty of doing this thing, then it's like an astronomical fine. It's like a really big thing. Now, I know people who had children that were engaged in situations like this where the parents come to find out later the school was aware that this kid was dressing differently or going by a different name, and the school did not tell the parents. And then the parents felt betrayed by the school. They're like, dude, if my kid is, saying he's a girl at school and you don't tell me, that's not right. Okay. I understand where those, like, I would be a little freaked out. Like, I don't know what my response would be. I probably wouldn't be happy. I'm like, can you just tell me if my kid says like Susie? However, what do you do? How do you write this into law? Right. It also goes with like, if they're wearing if they're not wearing clothing typical for that gender, what do you call a hoodie and sweats? Yeah. Right. Like, how do you know? What if you go by Mo? Your name's Monica. I have a cousin who's Mo, Monica, okay, Pat, Sam.
Well, and I guess my first question would be like, is this happening in Idaho? Like, do you have friends where this is happening in Idaho?
No, this is something that happened in my previous state in a previous time.
Yep.
But again, back to your point, it's an anxiety. I've never heard of this happening here. It doesn't matter. And if somebody's like, no, it happened, it's like totally fine. Like, I don't know. But again, the problem that I see with this is not that like I'm for or against this type of legislation. The problem is, from a policy standpoint, how do you write something that effectively captures the anxiety that it sounds like, let's say Representative Skog, and I'm sure other people have, which is like, hey, if my kid is going through something and you, the adult, you don't tell me, like, I feel betrayed. I understand that sentiment. But how do you write the law around like
ideological issues and fears
or things that are so nebulous? Like clothing or I think mannerisms is written there. How do you write a law to capture mannerisms? And we have nicknames, right? Like we have like Mackenzie, you call her Mac. Like I had a student who went by Mac, and it's like, how do you write a law encapsulating that, and who's the responsible party?
So I would say like, let's find that number and we'll talk about it next time.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting. Yeah,
because that seems like a very difficult thing to tease out. And again, for or against, whatever, doesn't matter to me. But like from a policy standpoint, here's a desire to capture this problem, but it's like, how do you even get your hands on it?
Totally.
Yeah.
So two more things that I want to get to before we end. So I had mentioned to you that Representative Wheeler has another bill. This is called House Bill 595. This is an emergency response plan. This one's really interesting because what they're basically doing is saying, they're saying there is a gap in emergency cardiac response plan on school campuses, or at least that's kind of what they feel like. Okay. And so this is stemming from an incident that's been, like, you can watch it on the news. Sure. Where a girl, I believe it was a teenage girl, had a cardiac arrest issue on a sports field, which would be atypical. Okay. Sure. And so she needed, I haven't like watched the stories, but basically she needed, cardiac help, and she was able to get it. And it's my understanding that she lived. Great. And so but now that incident has spawned let's do something about this statewide, and let's make sure that every school campus has on it an AED, like a defibrillator. And so on every school campus that is within a 3-minute walk of where that is going to be. So in a large campus, you're going to need multiple of these stations. That would be my guess. That would be my guess. Like, I mean, I was like, I have this in front of me. This is a new section of code. It was presented to the Health and Welfare Committee, or it's going to be maybe. And they're calling it the Cardiac Emergency Response Program. Now, what's interesting about this is that it would be an unfunded mandate, meaning that they're going to require school districts to have these devices. Many of them do. Like, I talked to a mom in very rural Idaho at her local school. She said, oh yeah, we have this. I mean, she's like, you don't have to be trained on this. You just follow the instructions and do it. And she's like, we partner with our EMT EMTs. And she's like, we get to the hospital she's like, this is a non-issue for us. Right. And she talks about like how you can get this stuff for free, AEDs for free. But what is interesting about this is that what is driving the policy, and this is why I wanted to talk about this one, because this is a policy based on a rare event, like what we would call an outlier. Now,
right.
we do make laws sometimes based on outliers, but
school safety laws.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. But this bill really reflects a highly emotional, low frequency event catalyst. And that spawned legislative action. And this
is also an unfunded mandate.
That it's an unfunded mandate. So, but this has come together, and you can get traction for this with advocacy organizations. The Heart Association is supporting this, compelling individual cases like this young girl's experience, and strong moral framing. If it saves one life,
it was worth it.
It was worth it. And that's the framing around it. But really, are we legislating around a risk or an exception to a case, right? And how are we going to justify making decisions like this later in other policy?
Here's a question for you. And again, thank you for all that. I was speaking with Senator Den Hartog yesterday, and specifically about House Bill 93. It obviously got unanimously, the Supreme Court was like, nope, there's a floor, not a ceiling. You can add on as long as it's not taking away from all these things, right? And one of the things I brought up, I'm like, hey, how is it, just in general with public schools, we have this incredible frustration with the administrative bloat. And we're so wasteful, we need to do all these things. Yet we layer on things every single legislative session that will increase administrative bloat. Because, by the way, let's say this passes, and I don't know anything about it. Maybe it's the best thing idea. No idea. Let's say it passes. First off, now we need more money going to schools, right? We need somebody in charge of making sure, we're going to have testing. You're going to have to find, very specific locations for all these things. You have to have a plan. And then I swear to you, the next session, it's going to come the reporting requirement, where it's like somebody's going to go out and test them, and then you're going to have to report back, because if they ever don't work and it's like, why didn't it work? It's like, well, we weren't testing them. It's like, okay, state law to test them. So now we're just layering on additional things. So at one stage, we're like, we have too much administrative bloat. We need more dollars going to kids and actual education. And then the other hand, they're like, okay, but just can we ask them to do one more thing with less money? Is that cool? Is that cool? Are we cool with that? Right. Here we're all cutting budgets, and we're all the Superintendent Critchfield's fighting to just hold even on the budget. We're not actually addressing the $100 million shortfall for special ed. Yet we're going to start requiring the schools come up with the money for defibrillators.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep. That's that one. So,
okay.
I think, that one just really, how they've defined the problem. We have to save one kid, and every child's life matters. I'm not saying that's not true. That's how they're defining this issue. And then using that advocacy coalition and kind of that outlier effect to create this policy with the unfunded mandate.
You know what I think?
What?
I think we need to get a coffee maker in here. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I think.
Just a couple more, because I know I just really, okay. We'll finish up with,
let's do one more, and then we can just do next week or the week after.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you and your side tangents, Matt,
stop it.
I know, but
we've had good conversation.
Yeah, we totally have. So, I'm going to fit into, I'm going to be able to do
go
this.
fast.
So the undergraduate medical education work group came up with recommendations, and that recommendation, you can go find it on the, Board of Education website.
Sure.
And they have all of these rollout things to help medical education so that we can get more doctors in the state. The plan is really interesting. And then we also have a rural health task force, because we're getting almost $1 billion in from the federal government.
That's over 5 years?
Yes, over 5 years, to help with rural healthcare. And so I think some of these things that are from the work group, these recommendations can be addressed through these, this rural health task force, which is going to be meeting weekly, I believe. And I think it's on Wednesdays or something.
Sure.
I'm waiting to hear on it. But one of the things that's so interesting is I attended the very first work group, and the question was, what does rural mean? And that is a big deal because the feds and the state define that differently. And it's really important for how they define that, because that's going to be a real key in how they use and make decisions regarding this funding that's coming in.
Okay. I had Tony Lawson from the Idaho Hospital Association in probably like 6 to 8 months ago. She was making the articulation. I don't know if it was related to this, but she was saying over and over, she's like, rural is urban. Like the urban hospitals are the rural hospitals, because the rural hospitals can't function with the services that they have and don't have. Like if they need something, they come to the urban hospitals. So she was making this parallel, this bridge. She's like, no. We are the rural hospitals. The St. Luke's in Boise is the rural hospital. And again, I don't know if that's in relation to like, hey, so some of the rural funding should come to us, even though we're in an urban setting.
That is a fear, I will tell you. And that was brought up. That was brought up at the task force. They said, we're really concerned that all of this funding is going to just end up in the Treasure Valley, because it's, as I heard them say, like the Department of Health and Welfare, I think I think they're tacking on like 14 units. So, they're using some of these funds. And so some of these lawmakers are saying, we need to be really clear about what we mean when we say rural, and all get on the same page so that can help guide the decisions that we make. So to your point, it's like, okay, well, when we say rural, does that also mean we're talking about a bridge to some of these urban, like that's really important.
One small thing.
More to come on that. And also I'm going to be having Representative Man Waring, who is a part of this work group, and who was a part of the work group and the task force on the Purple Zone.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
One quick thing as well, back to our earlier point about individual rights and individuals not really more of like, I don't really care about the community at this point. I care about me individually. In rural health, you also have the tuition reimbursement program. So if you have a doctor coming out of like say residency that accepts a position in rural Idaho for whatever it might be over a 4-year time frame, you get, I think like $100,000 of tuition reimbursement. Representative John Vanderwater was actually very integral in getting a lot of that funding out there, because they realized you have like a 95% chance of keeping that doctor in that rural location if they engage in this rural reimbursement program. But some people in the state are like, I don't want to pay for a doctor's tuition. It's like, okay, fine, but you also want doctors. They're like, yeah, they should just come. It's like, this is a problem. Like there are these constraints where there is a value of collective and community action, like education, like all these different things. And it is a real sticky thing that people just aren't putting together.
Yes. Okay.
Anyway,
This is the last one. Okay. And this is a very big deal. This is SJR 7, the Blaine Amendment repeal. I wanted to bring this one up. So this is Article 9, Section 5 is referred to as the Blaine Amendment, and it prohibits public dollars to sectarian schools. Now, someone might say, but we just passed House Bill 93. We're already going against that. Technically, that House Bill 93 is a tax credit that goes to the parent, not to
the school.
Not to the school. So these sectarian schools, just for people who are listening, we're talking about private religious schools.
Sure.
Okay. So what's confusing for people, and just kind of understanding this, the Espinoza decision from 2020, which came from the U.S. Supreme Court, weakened the Blaine Amendment, saying that, and they were not promoting, it's really important, they were not promoting giving money to private religious schools, but they were saying if a state gives money to private schools, they cannot discriminate against sectarian schools. They're not allowed to do that. So if a state subsidizes private school tuition,
sure.
They cannot discriminate against religious schools, private religious schools. So what's interesting about this is that this would be a constitutional change, and that requires a vote by the public. So this is a really big deal, because this, in my mind, constitutional changes are huge. This would be a removal of this. When I sat in and listened to the justices regarding House Bill 93, and they were talking about the constitutional foundations and where our founding fathers were when they made and what was happening, they were very specific about what was occurring in Idaho and why they would have done that. And one of the reasons they supported offering the tax credit to parents was that they felt like if you're providing on this public school level, which by the way, that was not the argument. Okay.
Sure.
But if they're providing and they're doing this, they can still have education innovation, which is,
they can add on.
They can add on. Yep.
Right,
they can add on, like what Senator Jen Hartog was saying to you. But so this removal of the Blaine Amendment would be significantly, would be a significant change, and it would be a floodgate and open the doors for a lot of other things. And so this is actually a very hot button topic when it comes to, separating public funds from private religious institutions. And, because if you offer it to one, you can have access to all sorts of things over here, and the implications that does, that means for our, for us as community members, our public tax dollars, all of the things. So more to come on that, but that did pass out of the House today, and that's a big deal.
Okay, we finally did it. We got a legislative kind of preview. Thank you for all the work you did on these. There's a dump truck of information. Let's do this again. God bless it. Anything at the end?
No, thanks for having me.
Thanks for the coffee. Bye.